Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to HandsOnSAPDev with QMacro. That's me, DJ. I finally got like a phrase that I can say consistently without making a mistake at the start of these live stream episodes, which is very pleasing. Welcome and thank you for joining. I'm really looking forward to this particular episode, which is entitled SAP Fiori Apps with UI5 Flex Services on Cloud Foundry, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's a mouthful of really, really juicy things. And yeah, we have a special guest, special because he's special, but also special because he's been on this live stream series a couple of times before. Before I introduce him, there's one I just wanted to share one thing. You probably know that over the weekend, we had the pleasure of attending and taking part in SAP Online Track, the first 2020 version, which was an amazing event. Massive kudos to all the organizers and all the participants, speakers and everything as well. So the URL to the SAP Online Track channel is there, and also, in fact, let me just type something in as well. Bit.ly from memory, bit.ly SAP Online Track fundraiser, and Ronnie will correct me if that's wrong. Go there, please, if you haven't done already, and hit the thing up with sponsorship for Girls Who Code. That'll be awesome. Thank you very much indeed in advance. So there we go. That's one of the things I wanted to share. The only thing I wanted to share. Welcome to John. Hi, John. Hi, Max. Hi, Tim. Hi, Napid. Helmut. Henry. Fantastic. So I'm going to switch scenes to bring in our special guest. Of course, we know about already. It's Marius Obert. Marius, hi.
Hi, DJ. How are you doing?
I'm very well. In fact, I'm going to turn. I'm on the left this time, so I'm going to turn and say, "Hi, Marius." And you can turn to your
right.
Yeah, perfect. Yes,
nice.
nice. That was very smoothly done, Marius. That's I'm quite impressed. So yeah, welcome back to the. It was a 50-50 chance, I know, but I mean, anyway, we've had you on the stream twice before. Once about a year ago, actually, it was you were talking about MTA deployments and everything. And then sort of back towards the winter of 2019, you came on and showed us the relatively then very new Business Application Studio, which was pretty cool. And you're back again. So welcome again.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me again. So I guess I wasn't too bad the first two times. And this time
No, go ahead.
Okay, this time I'll actually show something similar again. It has to do with MTA, it has to do with the App Studio, and it has to do with UI5.
Well, I mean, it's always good to sort of, build on knowledge, building knowledge with layers and so on. So, that's not a bad thing, right? So, in sort of slight preparation for this session, I thought, okay, yeah, UI5 Flex Services. I got a rough idea of what they are. There's something in the back of my mind. Layered repository and SAP and customer and user and all those different things. And I went to the help portal, and unless I was mistaken, I think that it confirmed that that's this area we're going to be talking about, right?
Absolutely, yes. So you completely already mentioned it, that there's this LRAP, the layered repository, where it's different layers where you can store user configuration on Fiori applications or UI5 applications in general. And actually, I come from the UI5 development area, but I've never really actively used it. So the most active when I used the service was when I used the Fiori Launchpad to, request vacation days, and when you drag and drop the tiles, and when you can also click on your user and click on adapt UI in some applications, when you can turn hide some fragments, show additional fragments. But this was the most I've done up to probably 3 months ago with it. And then I was wondering, okay, how would I implement such an application by myself on Cloud Foundry?
Okay. So basically, probably most of us who've used Fiori have used the facilities of the flexibility services without even knowing, right?
Yes.
And also, I remember, the adaptation layer or the adaptation services of UI5 also use this layered repository, right?
Yes. So when you, for example, use the smart filter control and you have this variant save feature, that's also leveraging this service in the background.
Cool. Okay. That sounds exactly the sort of thing. I love a combination. I love a combination that involves Cloud Foundry first of all, and the Business Application Studio and UI5. I mean, what more could you ask for on a Wednesday afternoon here in Manchester? So I've just noticed, Greg. Good morning to you over there on Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And good morning, Robert. Robert has woken up after SAP Online Track. Yeah, it was exhausting, wasn't it? It was exhausting in a good way. Jorge, good day to you as well. So I'm going to hand it over to you now. I'm going to stop talking, and why don't I switch scenes? We can carry on talking because they can see our videos as well. And you've got your screen share already running. So yeah, Marius, take us through this journey.
Okay, awesome. So as always, I just start doing some coding. Most of it is copy and pasting from my cheat sheet. So if I do something too fast, DJ, please interrupt me, and then I can speak a couple of minutes about what I've just done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first you should see the landing page of the Business Application Studio in the trial. So everything that you see here is what you can do at home as well.
Mm-hmm.
Except of the last step, but I'll mention it again. So okay. I already prepared a dev space, but I didn't do anything special with this dev space. It is just the UI5.
You did do something special. You named it HandsOnSAPDev. I'm very honored.
Yes. Okay, that's the only thing I've done. Yeah, almost the only thing. So I created a dev space for Fiori development, named it HandsOnSAPDev, and I prepared a UI5 project, but I didn't install additional tools. I didn't configure an environment or anything, because that's the great part about the Business Application Studio. And that's why I want to show it here today in this live stream. Because if I use my own environment and you try to do it at home, you might miss a plugin, or you don't have the CLI that I'm using. So this is like neutral ground and makes it hopefully very easy to code along.
That's what we like, doing everything from scratch.
So the Business App Studio is starting. And let me know if the font size works out for you. Is it okay? Or should I increase it?
Looking pretty good. I'm sure that the folks will shout on the chat if you would like Marius to bump his font up by 1 or 2. But I'm viewing Marius's window in a little scene thing here, which is only this small, and I can still just about read it. So I think it's probably okay.
Okay, so you see there's a UI5 web application that stores, let me open the mta.yaml. Basically, it has an app router. It has a deploy application that takes the UI5 web app and puts it in the HTML5 application repository that we see here. These two services, and there's a UAA and a destination service. So it's for a UI5 web app or general web app on Cloud Foundry, a standard setup.
Yep.
And let's just start it locally in the App Studio so we can see what this web application is doing.
Perfect. And Napit and Helmut have confirmed the size of the font is just right.
Awesome. So I open the web app here, open the index.html to see the application. And it is not a list report application, but it looks similar to a list report, or it is a list report application, but it's not a Fiori elements list report.
Okay.
And it uses basically the data that are most likely very familiar.
To
you. It's the North Rhine service products. You can apply filters on it. When you click on the item, you see a detail screen.
Nice.
But what you don't see here is it is a you don't see any navigation items. You don't see the shell header. You don't see which user is logged in, because it's just a standalone application. It's not yet part of the Fiori Launchpad.
Gotcha.
And this is what I want to do now here in this call. I just take the application and show you the steps or the delta that is needed to convert the web app into the Fiori Launchpad on Cloud Foundry.
Cool. Okay. Ronnie says, thanks, Marius, for demonstrating stuff on the same resources that everybody else has available to them as well in trial. That was really cool.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I hope if you have problems, issues later doing the exact same steps, then hit me up on Twitter, SAP community, and then I'm sure we'll find a way to make it work for everyone. Okay, so the first step is that I basically put take the web application and put it in the FLP sandbox HTML, which is like a local mock that you could use. You don't have to run it. You can also use the FLP sandbox on your local machine. It doesn't have to be in the Business Application Studio, but it provides you some shell that mocks the Fiori Launchpad. It is not a real service. It looks like it is, but it is not. So to do this, first I basically copy the code here, then create a new file in the web app folder. It's called FLP sandbox HTML. And I paste just some HTML code here.
That's okay. I think some of the hands-on SAP Dev folks will be familiar with this because we played around with the sandbox before with the configuration of the tiles in that little bit of JSON we've just scrolled past there. Yeah, that's it's. I think we're on fairly familiar territory.
Okay, awesome. So I can basically skip that. It's basic sandbox HTML. Save the file, and then I can basically refresh. I don't have to restart the local web server. I can refresh it and remove that index.html from the path because now we have a second file here, the FLP sandbox.
So the FLP sandbox, I think if I remember rightly, loads some resources from the UI5 SDK's test resources area, which is this whole sandbox sort of engine, right?
Yes, I mean, while it's loading, probably it takes too much bandwidth with the stream here. It takes the normal UI5 resources here and then the test resources that you just referred to with the sandbox.js. Yes.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. U-shell, unified shell. There we go.
So now the application is there. We can click on products. And now we basically see the application we saw previously embedded in the FLP sandbox.
Yep.
And what else you can see is, if I go to the detail page here, is that we see Adapt UI and Personalize UI now. And these are the two Flex services that I'll talk about more in the rest of this live stream. You probably know Personalize app. This is the personalization feature that everybody can use. You most likely haven't seen Adapt UI in your Fiori Launchpad so far because that's the key user feature that only certain users can do more configuration and save it for all the other users. So this is usually done by someone in your company who is setting up the screen and configuring it how depending on the needs of your company.
Exactly. It always reminds me of, it's almost like the brother or the sister of what you can do in, and the name's completely just gone out of my head, what you can do with, what's the stuff that you layer over the top of the UI5 diag protocol? To make really nice Fiori-based screens of the SAP GUI. I can't believe I can't think of the name. Somebody tell me in the chat what I'm thinking about. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing, right? So you can move around, maybe, put this field over here and put this group over there, hide this thing, expose this thing, and so on.
Yes, so later I can click on it now to show you what it can do, but I won't be able to activate it and store it because I'm not logged in with any user. It's just mock. But it basically leverages the metadata of the OData service that is connected. So when I click here, for example, and I say I want to have a new field, I can see all fields that are exposed by the OData service. I can say I want to have the product name here and call it, click OK. Say perfect, live hands-on.
Nice. By the way, many people have reminded this old brain here what it was. SAP screen personas, right? Of course.
Oh, right. Yes.
What a fool I am. It's been a long week already.
I've heard about it in the past as well, but I couldn't remember the name either, so don't feel bad. So if I click save and exit, it will fail because this is a mock FLP sandbox. So obviously it won't work. But what we are going to do now, we're basically making it work. And the first step we have to do so is we have to add the Cloud Foundry portal service to our project, to the mta.yaml.
Cool. Okay.
And DJ, I know you're very familiar with the service. You mostly use it for the
workflow.
Yes.
Yes.
And it is the same service. So if you want to use if you use workflows in combination with that, it will work as well. So you can add your own Fiori applications in the same launchpad where you manage your workflow items.
Yep. Cool.
And so let's switch to the mta.yaml. To do this, we need to add a couple of new resources and modules.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we add the portal service. Let me copy the code here, paste it in the right place. And as this is YAML, I probably have to fix the white spaces again. That looks good.
Cool. Yep. So you've added 2 resources there, right?
I just changed the size limit from 5 to 1.
Size. Okay,
because we don't need 5. I could have stayed with 5. So I added only this one, the portal service.
Right. Oh, you expanded it and added it. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first thing I've done, and this is basically where all this portal logic lives in. It's a backend service, but we have to connect it to our application, i.e. to our app router. And this is the second thing that we have to do. We go to the requires section of our app router and reference the portal service here.
Yeah.
Hands on. Okay, this was the second step. And now last but not least, we have to add a new we have to add some configuration for the portal service. And this configuration is basically stored in a file called common data model.json.
Yes. We came across this as well. We didn't really look at it too much, but we did notice back in the day, back when we looked at it in the Web IDE, there was a special sort of graphical editor for that.
Yes, and that's not there in the App Studio yet, that graphical editor. So it is this large JSON that you really have to know what you do. And I only know that much about what I do. So don't ask me too many questions, but I will tell you all that I know. Okay, so I add a new folder here that I name Launchpad. And in this Launchpad folder or module folder, I add a new file. I add another folder. It's called Portal Site. And in there, I add the common data model.json.
Yeah, that's right. But I do like the way that you're doing this literally from nothing, because there's nothing that is already there that we think, do we need to have that? Do we not need to have that? So this is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically also like part of why I do it. If you just want to, maybe I should have also mentioned that before. If you just want to say you want to have a UI5 application, you want to host it on Cloud Foundry in the Launchpad, you can use easy UI5 and the generator will generate everything for you. But What we do here is we take the normal web application and then we build the other stuff on top. So you see what a generator does behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you see the configuration. It's a long JSON. What is important here is that we have this payload section with the catalog where we define the default catalog, and there is a payload where we reference the ID of our web application.
Yep.
And then when I scroll down, we define a group, the default group, where we also include the ID of our app. And to show you where we define the ID, it's in the web app folder in the manifest.json. There's this SAP app ID, and this is, in this case, live.hands-on. It could be anything in your case. Most likely it's like your namespace dot name of the UI application.
Yeah. And sometimes the value of this ID gets sort of compressed for other uses as well. All the dots are taken out and it's squished together.
Yes.
Exactly.
So we'll see that later. That's happening when the web application is in the HTML5 application repository. Then the ID will be just the ID with the dots.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that I could show you now here is, let's refresh this page first. I've already showed you that there is this Adapt UI and the Personalize UI button in the menu.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, per default, it is not there. Oh, now it is only Adapt UI. It is here because we added it in this Bootstrap plugins. So basically, this is the configuration.
Yes. Yep.
And this is basically also why we have this section here in the common data model or JSON. So it is in sites, payload config, ushell, unified shell config, Bootstrap plugins, and here we define these two plugins as well.
Nice, yes.
And the rest of the configuration is just like the minimal configuration that you need. Here you can define which theme you want to use, which theme should be active so the user can switch if he or she wants. But the most important part is the plugins and that refer to the app ID here.
Yeah,
and here.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and it's nice to know that it's sort of familiar or sort of similar to what you'd be hacking around with in the FLP sandbox as well.
Yes. Okay, what's the next step on the cheat sheet? Right, so here we say, is it this ID? Yeah, here in this ID, we have this data-display. And this is basically the intent that we give into the web application. So our web app knows what to do when it's being opened by the Fiori Launchpad. And now we have to add this information also to the manifester, which is like the project descriptor or the web app descriptor of UI5 web applications. So let's go back to the manifester JSON and let me copy and paste the cross-navigation intent here.
You're copy pasting that. Just for those wondering, I mean the intent. This is basically the stuff after the hash. That's the hash path part of the. It's like a noun and a verb, right? Which is part of the whole way that the navigation within the Fiori Launchpad works.
Yes, exactly. That's basically what you just described. The noun and the verb. It's a semantic object and the action. I was very uncreative and I just called it display. Usually you would choose a name or noun that's maybe telling the user what it's doing.
Yeah.
So I think that was almost all of it. Yes. So because we have this configuration here, similar to when we deploy web. So we have this deployer application that takes the web application and puts it in the HTML5 application repository. And similarly, we need a module or an application that takes the configuration that we have here and puts it in the portal service.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
And that will be a Cloud Foundry task, similarly to what a deployer does here or that HTTP does in CAP projects. So it's basically a task that has a one-time job. It puts the configuration into a service. It sets up a schema. It's what Cloud Foundry tasks usually are used for.
Funnily enough, I know somebody who wrote a really cool blog post about Cloud Foundry tasks. Could that be somebody you know, Marius?
I'm not sure.
So anybody on the chat, go and check out Marius's blog post, the Cloud Foundry Fun series, and if anybody can find the task-based one, please post the URL in the chat. That'd be really cool.
Okay, cool. And basically, to make it a Cloud Foundry application that can be a Cloud Foundry task, we have to add a package.json. So Cloud Foundry knows, because if there's just this configuration file, Cloud Foundry won't know, is this a Java application? Is it a Node.js? Is it a Python application? So we have to tell Cloud Foundry, and usually we do this by just adding a package.json file, because then Cloud Foundry immediately notices, oh, this is a Node.js application, and with this package.json, it also knows what are the dependencies and what is the starting command. So perfect. I just create a new package.json. It is very small. It just has a name. I don't even need a description or the node engines.
By the way,
I only need a dependency. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. I think the screen sharing might have frozen. I can still see you're on the menu path open in terminal. I guess you're not there, right?
Okay, then let me just stop sharing my screen and share again. What was the last thing you saw?
You were opening something in the terminal file. Open in terminal. Let me just Oh, there we go. I think we're back already. Yep, it's already automatically put it back. So I can now see your package.json file open, and you're on line 13 or something.
Okay, awesome. So basically, I don't think you've missed too much. I just created a new package.json file in the Launchpad module folder. And here we have the name. We don't even need a description. The engines is also optional in Cloud Foundry. So the only thing that we really need is the dependency and the script. And in the script, we basically say just execute a dependency, which is portal CF content deployer.
Because doesn't Cloud Foundry look for an npm start script and then run it if?
So exactly, that's what Cloud Foundry is doing. It first it tries to identify what type of an application is it to identify the build pack it needs, and because there's a package.json, Cloud Foundry notices this is a Node.js application, and then it will just execute npm start.
Nice.
We could, if we say, okay, we don't call this start, so but hands-on, basically we would have to change the configuration here to define it run command, but let's keep it simple and name it and use the npm start command.
Yep.
And I already kind of hinted it here because it is a module. Because the Launchpad is a module, we have to add a new module to the mta.yaml.
Gotcha.
And this is also here. Copy and paste. And here I just named the module hands-on Launchpad deployer. It is of type SAP portal content. The path is Launchpad,
which is that one in there,
which is here.
Yep.
And then I say deploy after the hands-on deployer because the Launchpad during deployment it notices, oh, I need to embed a web application from the HTML5 application repository in the Fiori Launchpad. And for this, the web app has to be in the FLP in the HTML5 application repository before. And that's why I say, don't do this task before this task here is finished.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the ability to actually have a defined sequence is a nice thing.
Yes.
By the way, if you get a chance, I'm sure other folks will be wanting to hear any wisdom you have to share on this in terms of the HTML5 application repository. There's basically, for us in trial, there are two plans. There's the host plan, there's the runtime plan, and we've sort of talked about that on previous live streams a little bit. But if you could tell us a little bit more about that, if that's appropriate, then that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have enough time here today, so maybe I finish just talking about this module here first, but it is connected to your question. So as I want to take configuration and put it in the service instance, obviously this module has to be connected to the service instance we just created previously. So this is referenced here. I already said that the deployer will check is the web app in the HTML5 application repository, which is why we connected also to this service instance. And for using all the portal features, we have to log in, and therefore we also have to use the UAA service. And this is why we also bind the deployer task to our UAA service instance.
Yeah.
And to your question, basically, that's what you can. What is also here that I have two service instances of this HTML5 service or application repository service. One is the runtime service, the other one is the host service instance and runtime service instance. The host service instance is basically, they look very similar.
Yeah.
The only difference is what you see here. And can I? Okay.
The service plan is different app host and app runtime, right?
Yes. Exactly. The service plan is different, and the runtime. Well, let's talk about the host plan first. The host plan is the service instance you use to get your web applications in the repository. So you have it somewhere on, so the Cloud Foundry task has the configuration or it has the web application, and it will get data in it. And therefore we use the host service. And that's why that's why we can configure the size of the repository. And size 1 means 1 megabyte, which in this case is more than we need because the resources are very tiny and we don't have big images.
And you can almost see this particular host service as the rough equivalent of what we remember in Neo as the HTML5 applications place in the cockpit, right? When you deployed
Yes.
an HTML5 application from the Web IDE to Cloud Platform Neo, they ended up in this big list in the HTML5 applications section.
Yes, it is basically the same idea. It's the same concept that they use. It is the place where we store the web application.
Mm-hmm.
And the runtime service on the other side, you can think of it like a gateway to this repository. And that's why we connect the runtime service to our application router, because it basically takes all incoming traffic and then the application router forwards the traffic to this gateway that serves that contains the data in the repository.
So it's the same store, but just the runtime one is the way in, and the host one, the way in from the front end, from the user end, and the host one is the way in from our end, from the back end.
Exactly. You can see the two doors to one repository, to
one chamber.
Okay, and this is now we talked a lot. I could have already started the deployment because that will take a while.
That was completely my fault.
No worries. So the deployment starts now. Let's see if everything works out. If it fails, it most likely is a white space issue in the mta.yaml during the build.
I think people give YAML a little bit too much of a hard time. I quite like it.
No, I think it's easy to read. It's basically the opposite or the other way is JSON, because if you have JSON, it's hard to read, but it's not as easy to do, or it won't hurt if you have.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's not sensitive to white space, but it's still. I think JSON is still harder to type in manually if you're doing sort of large, because of the double quotes and the shift double quotes, shift open curly brackets, close, commas, and all those different things. There we go. That's cool. That's all right. We learn from errors.
Yeah, and actually this is also something that I forgot. I'm not logged into so basically I did a CF deploy, but I'm not logged into Cloud Foundry CLI yet.
Yep.
So let's use that feature of the App Studio just to connect to the Cloud Foundry space. Mm-hmm. This by default, it is the endpoint we want to connect to, region EU10.
Yep.
I enter my email. My password. Select organization and the space.
We'll give you 15 points for the length of that password. That's quite good.
I actually have to change it. I got the email this morning that I have to change it again. So the next, I actually did not change it because I knew I would type in the old password now if I would have done it this morning. Okay, now I'll deploy again. And now it will work for some time, but it's not failing. So that was the thing, or the reason why it broke earlier. And while it's working, let's have a look at git status to see all the files that we just changed.
Yep.
Just to recap, I added the new module that stores the Launchpad configuration with these two files. I added the new module also to the mta.yaml and added a new service instance and linked all of, rewired them together.
Yep.
We added the FLP sandbox. We don't really need them now since we deployed to the real sandbox in the cloud, but that was for local testing.
Yeah, well, so
and to show you how the configuration works in the HTML file versus the data model JSON file. And we changed the manifest.json file to, we added the intent, right? Yep. So the Launchpad knows what is the semantic object. Yep. So let's just commit step 1.
Excellent.
Deployment doing. So, any questions so far?
Any questions? Everybody's quiet. Maybe I've sent them on a wild goose chase. I don't know how to translate that English phrase, but maybe they're all going searching for your Cloud Foundry fun blog posts when I said to go and find the task one, right? So in fact, talking of that one, Oh yeah, that is the task, the one that's going to sort of do its work and then finish, right? And then so if we were to look in the cockpit, in the cloud platform cockpit, we'd see the status of that would be eventually stopped.
Right, that's a good point. And we will see it in a couple of moments here as well when we do a CF apps, like this command line version of the cockpit.
Yep.
Then we will also see the status, and I think it would be crashed if it would be unintentional or if it would fail during the task.
Yep.
And it would be stopped, and if the task is completed successfully, and then we know, okay, there was no problem.
Yeah, exactly. So stopped is, I mean, to some people, to me initially as well, it's like stopped. Oh my goodness, what's gone wrong? But yeah, stopped is like, yes, it's worked. Yeah.
Okay, so this looks already good. So here we can talk a little bit about the log output. Because we have a parallel deployment activated, it is a little bit like scrambled up here. We see like all the different logs of the different applications mixed together.
Yep.
But that's okay as long as there's no error. And we see here, for example, we see that the app router already started and is available at this address. So we can open it in a new tab. And okay, we are prompted to log in. That's also expected.
Nice.
Oh, wait.
So from other folks that are also familiar with other episodes on this channel will know now that what Marius is following there with that login is the authentication code OAuth flow.
Yes, and now this oops it looks like something broke, but it is, I think, still okay because there is no launchpad yet. So it is partially there, but our web app is not in there. There's no configuration, and that's why we see this error message. Yep. Once the deployment is done here, then we shouldn't see this error message here or this message page.
Exactly. We're not scared of error messages here on HandsOnSAPDev. We love them.
No.
We love them.
Okay, so here it seems like it's done. We can do a CF apps. To have a look at all the applications, we see our app router is started and the other two applications are stopped. So let's refresh this page.
One of the things that I always trip myself up is I'll see that oops, I'll press refresh to see if it's there, but of course the URL has been a redirected URL, so it's going to refresh the oops page.
Yes, I mean that happened to me more than once. So, but yes, now we basically see everything that we want to see. There's a Fiori Launchpad. If I click on the top right, I see my name because now I'm logged in with my SAP ID. And if I open the web application, I see my.
We already see a little bit of configuration in the URL in the query parameter there, that SAP UI app ID hint live.handson.
Yes, that's a good question. I want to check what this hint means.
Yeah, I've not seen that before.
You know?
Yeah. No, I mean I know some SAP UI asterisk parameters, but is that a new one, or I just never noticed it before? Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I'm not sure. So here, there's the data. As we know, the list report, we can open any item. And what we can do now too is when we click on Personalize app.
Bearing in mind you're logged in.
I'm logged in, right? I see these additional screens. There's not a lot of interactivity, what you can do with the personalization. It's mostly just hiding fragments and showing or displaying hidden fragments. But for this purpose here, let's say I take the category out.
Yeah.
And I click done. And it says your changes have been saved. And now we can do a live experiment. So DJ, I paste the URL to your to you in the private chat.
Okay, I can see the URL. Let me just copy that. Copy link address. Shall I paste that into the YouTube chat?
Please.
Right, here we go. So I've just pasted that in.
Okay, and in parallel, I open Firefox and I open the same page. So when I log in, I will, because I'm logging in with the same user, I only see this info or supplier info box here. But when you log in, you should see both.
The category, right? I think that was the
This
one.
category as well. So this basically shows that that it is working what we're doing. And obviously only the people that are in the live stream right now can see it, because the application won't be around for longer than after this call. So sorry if you watch the replay, then you have to trust that this works.
We trust you. We trust you.
Yes. And the second thing that we can do is, when we click on Adapt UI, is that we can try to use the key user service.
Nice.
It will load sometime, because it loads additional libraries for all the configuration menus and configuration fragments.
Yeah.
And
By
then
the way,
you can basically.
Sorry, I can just confirm I've gone to that URL as well, and I can see the category for that.
Yes. Yeah, here we can do the same that we've done hands-on. I always write hand-on, I'm not sure. So, and then when I click save and exit, it will fail. No, it will first ask me if I want to reload the page, but now it will fail. Because of the error, no connector configured to write into layer customer. And so you might have noticed before, so I only added the portal service. I did not explicitly add the UI5 flexibility service. And that's why that's because of the personalization service is kind of stacked on top of the portal service implicitly.
Okay.
So the key user service, so there are two flex services, personalization and key user.
Yep.
The personalization service is stacked on top of the portal service and Cloud Foundry. You don't have to do anything. You just connect your application to the portal, your app router to the portal service, and then personalization will work out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
For key user service, it is a little bit different, because the key user service is a different service instance. It is a different service plan, and you can purchase it or you can use it with CPEA. So that means you have to basically do some additional configuration. It's really minimal configuration that is needed to basically hook it up to the service, to the portal service. The advantage of this is that you can but it is separate, because you can use it separate. You don't only have to. You can use it outside of FLP the FLP. You can use it outside of the portal service. You can use a standalone UI5 application and connect it to your app router, and that makes it more agile and reusable in different scenarios.
Yeah.
And I already said the configuration is very minimal. We will do it now here live, and as it's Cloud Foundry, it is really as simple as you define a service, you plug it together, and you do a small configuration. So it's only 3 steps. And that's, I think, what I like so much about Cloud Foundry. It's really this easy. You take a service, you plug it into an application, and it works. It's just like dependency injection.
Yep. By the way, Amit confirms that he also can see category. And there was also a question from Murat, but answered brilliantly by Joachim. Is it possible to do that, as in the services with Fiori elements, or does it have to be a freestyle SAP UI5 app only? And Joachim says it can be done with both Fiori elements and freestyle.
Yes, absolutely. One thing that I forgot to mention in the beginning that is a little bit tricky when you don't know it is that obviously this personalization service is all based on IDs, on div IDs. So obviously UI5, if you hide a box and it has no ID, then when you do a refresh, the web application won't be able to tell which box you want to hide. And that's why you won't be able to see this. Sometimes it disappears. You won't be able to. That's why it was the sandbox. That was the wrong one, and I stopped it. You won't be able to see this Adapt UI button if you don't have unique IDs in your freestyle web app. If you have Fiori elements, you won't have to deal with IDs, so you probably don't notice. If you do a freestyle application and you have IDs, divs that don't have IDs, you won't see it.
Yes.
And then you really start looking, and then you maybe remember, oh, I have to have an ID for all my div, but then you go through your entire web app, through all XML files, and you check like which element has no ID, and that's a little bit tedious. So you have to have it in the back of your mind from the beginning.
Yeah.
To give IDs always
Create
to
them as you go rather than try and retrofit them.
Yes, but we thought, I prepared it, so that's not a problem here.
Nice.
And let's add the UI5 flexibility service for key users also to this mta.yaml.
Stable IDs, yes. Stable IDs, that's a phrase I've not heard for a long time.
So here I just define a new resource. The service is UI5 flexibility key user, service plan key user. And then you also bind it to the app router, because obviously the app router redirects all traffic to the service.
I think, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, or it makes sense that almost everything is bound to the app router because that's at the pointed end of the arrow.
Yes, exactly. And as you know, app router, what is the first thing you think of? Which file?
XS app.json.
Yes, exactly.
I
Because
almost
when
said
we
zero
wrote traffic,
application.
no, it was 100 points for you, DJ.
Thank you.
So here is it, the access app.json, where we define a second route where we say all traffic that starts with the path key user shall be redirected to this key user service endpoint key user.
Ooh, so I've got two questions for you. So by the way, the first question is like a generic question. This key user service, is this available in trial, or is this the thing you were referring to at the start of the stream?
Yeah, it is not yet available in trial.
Yeah.
It is also not yet available in production outside of SAP, but it will be released in the next few days.
Awesome.
So it is brand new, basically.
And remember, folks, where you saw it first with Marius on HandsOnSAPDev. Yes, an exclusive. And the other thing was that we in HandsOnSAPDev, we've come across this combination of service and endpoint properties inside a route in XSApp.json before, in other circumstances. And it's quite interesting where this comes from, right? We find references to the values here in service and endpoint in the service keys of the instance, right?
Yes. It's I mean, we can have a look at.
Well,
I'm not sure
sorry,
if we have enough time, but
no. Let's just skip that. But I just wanted to point out that that's another one of these examples.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much logic is in the app router. So people, I mean, even I, when I heard about the app router first, and I tried to work around it, not to really use it to host the UI5 application in an own Express app server. But then really when you get more and more in this Cloud Foundry world and all the servers and you want to integrate it, you don't want to deal with this integration and passing the tokens and making sure users logged in. It's really like the app router, there's so much logic and you only need to configure this access app.json file and then everything comes together.
Secret superpower for us here on the cloud platform, right?
Absolutely. It's like, it takes some time, but I think also the learning curve is very steep.
Yeah. I mean, also what really drove it home to me how powerful it is and how capable it is it's almost like Unchampion. There's a huge README Markdown file in the AppRouter repo, in the AppRouter NPM module. It's like, wow, and so much information in there.
I can show it. So it's when you open the Node modules folder, there's this add SAP, there's app router, and here's the file you're talking about, DJ.
Yeah.
Let's say open preview. And again, this is all the App Studio, all the code that you download implicitly when you have the project. And there's this huge README with all like charts, graphics, everything that you need.
Everything you could wish for.
By the way, all at SAP, all modules from the SAP repository have this. Also the logging service.
Mm-hmm. And the deployer service as well, right? That's got quite an interesting README.
Instructions how to use it, and there is obviously they are all hosted in the internal GitHub, but for the people that don't work at SAP, and if you don't want to download a package to see the README, there's this nice repository from Gregor. It's called SAP Wolf, is that his GitHub username?
Probably Wolf_Gregor, isn't it, or something?
No, there, here we go. And among all his repositories, there's one that contains npm. npm
It's
API
the
collection.
API collection. Yeah, found it. There we go. So let's go. I'll paste the link.
Okay. Do you have it, or should I send you the link?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. And here you can click on APIs, app router, and there you basically see it in a web version, but it's the same content that you see here as well. Nice. Okay, so the last configuration step. So to add the Flex service, to come back.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Volker's made a really good comment about. Oh yeah, wouldn't it be really nice if we could add comments to the roots in XSAP.json? Oh, it's JSON. I suppose you could. I mean, I've seen people use random property names like _banana and then a string for the comment. But anyway, sorry, I'm taking up your time.
We're almost at the end. No worries. So here to recap what we've done in the last step so far, we added the key user service. We added a route in the app router to the key user service. But this is a route that we came up with, or I came up with. So now we have to basically tell the FLP Launchpad configuration what route we want to send all that traffic to.
Yep.
And this is here in the SAP Cloud Portal configuration. We can add.
Perfect. So we're back in the common data model JSON. Yep.
Yes, back in the common data model JSON. In the config, we add flexibility services, connector, key user connector, URL/key user, and that's basically sending all traffic to the app router with this URL, and from here it will be redirected
to the flexibility
to the Flex service that is connected here. Awesome. So I think that's all.
Perfect.
Let's start a new deployment.
Yep.
This one should be faster as most of the resources are already created.
Yep. I'm just reminded of another character from Douglas Adams, Dirk Gently. He was a detective, right?
There's a Netflix show about him. I'm not sure how. I really like the Netflix show. I'm not sure how close it is to the book. I didn't even know there's a book, but there's a Netflix show.
Yeah, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and his favorite phrase or idea was the fundamental interconnectedness of all things, and that's exactly what we're seeing here with Cloud Platform, right? And Cloud Foundry specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I really recommend the Netflix show.
Okay.
Do you have Netflix?
I do have.
If you have Netflix, watch it.
But I sometimes, if something's so good, the books are so good, and the radio series of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy are so good, I don't want to watch any TV or film versions because it might destroy what's on my head.
Yeah, I understand that.
Anyway.
It is a little bit crazy. I'm not sure if the book is as crazy as the show.
Okay.
But I mean, it's Douglas Adams, so probably.
Yes, most likely.
Okay, let's see. Okay, the deployment is still in progress. Let me go through my cheat sheet. If I forgot something along the way.
This has been awesome, by the way.
I think we're good. So while it's deploying, what I will do when the deployment is done, I will do key user change, and then if you're watching the show right now in this moment live, you can refresh your page, and then you should see the change that I've done as a key user immediately.
Nice.
So this is a change that I can do that affects others.
Yep.
Key user changes affect others. Personalization changes don't.
P13N, personalization.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a special treat for all the live viewers here, of course, accessing Marius's demo app. What more do you want on a Wednesday afternoon?
What else I do in parallel is I have to be a key user, I have to have the special role, and I have to have a role collection. In the current configuration, everyone is allowed to see the key user UI, but you won't be able to save and activate a change.
Okay.
For that, you have to have that role that I will add to my user right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, the key user Flex service has been created, and this means that the role is available in the cockpit. It's already available now, even before, no, that was the wrong one, even before the entire deployment is finished.
Yep. I don't think we've ever explicitly used the deployment feature in previous hands-on SAP Dev episodes.
Or you were a little bit broken up. I didn't understand what you just said.
I was just musing that I don't think we've ever explicitly, in anger, as it were, used parallel deployments before on hands-on SAP Dev.
Yeah, it has upside and downsides, because then you really have to think which service depends on which module, and vice versa.
Yep.
And then you have to use this deploy after flag.
Yeah, and pick apart the log records as well.
So here I have this role collection already defined before.
Mm-hmm.
Now I select the application identifier, flexibility key user, flex key user, save.
Nice.
I think, as I already created a role collection before, my user is probably still assigned to this role collection, or the role collection is assigned to my user. But let's double check. Yes, developer. So that should work. Deployment is still going on.
That's okay. You're taking us right to the very edge of the hour. It's quite exciting.
It will be erased. So I can already log off the application now, because when the deployment is done and I would just do a refresh, I wouldn't be logged in with my old scope and the old role collection that did not contain the role that I just assigned. So I would have had to log out anyway. So let's just do it now.
Let's do that now. Yep.
Okay, here we see the error message that the app router was down right in the moment when I want to log out. So that didn't work.
That's cool though. That's again, it's if an error message is understandable, it teaches you something.
Okay, now application hands-on started and is available. So the logout should work now. I think it worked.
Good.
Awesome. Sign in again.
And
let's see.
Almost. While we're waiting as well, that cp.portal, the path in the URL, that also refers to HTML5 artifacts in the HTML5 apps repo, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm not 100% sure if the artifacts are in the repo or in the source instance of the portal, but they're not part of the app router.
So Max and I were hacking around a few weeks ago, and since then as well, I think we did it on a live stream once, where we did we used the HTML5 plugin to CF to say, show me the HTML5 apps, and we specified something that showed us everything rather than just our stuff, and we found.
Oh, you mean this one, but with an additional option?
Exactly, with an additional option.
Do you remember the option?
No, not off the top of my head. Okay. But anyway, I don't want to distract with. That's something to play.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know where it's stored, so there's a 50% chance that it is in the HTML5 application repository.
It's sort of magically already there, as it were.
Yeah.
Otherwise, where it's coming from?
It's also indicated here because we have this welcome file that basically does the redirect immediately to this path, but other than that, we don't specify CP portal, so it's not a route that we define. It is part of the HTML5, the connected service.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here.
So Max is saying that they are part of the HTML5 app repo.
Sorry?
Max just said on the chat that they are part of the HTML5 app repo.
Okay, nice. Awesome.
Hands-on deployer.
Hands-on deployer. So,
are there any more questions, by the way, while we're waiting? It's been super interesting. Here we go. Group title.
I mean, it didn't finish yet, but I'm not patient, so let's just try and see if it works anyway. Maybe the important parts are already there. I click Adapt UI. Okay, this is a screen where it tells us you are in personalization mode because I've hidden the category.
Yep.
And when I do the key user changes, I go back to the default mode.
Right.
That's why we see the category
again
now. We'll load the resources. I say I add the product ID and add it during hands-on SAP Dev. And I click Save and Exit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, the configuration was not there yet.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Oh,
Okay, a little bit
just
too
slightly
fast.
too fast. Let's do that one more time, and we just hit the top of the hour, but I think we can definitely take a few more minutes for this.
Okay. So tap TI. Oh, see, now you see this
Original app. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
this button here. So, and this is the original app is the name of this version that is currently activated. So I can do edit during HandsOnSAPDev. And I activate and ask me for the name. I say live demo, confirm. New version activated. And then I can say save and exit. And then I would see this here. And if you refresh the link now, you should see it as well.
Let me just go to my link. Oh, your session expired. Let's just reload the page. And folks on the chat, if you reload that as well. Oh, there we go. Added during hands-on SAP.
Nice.
SAP Dev. Nice. What an
Oh,
awesome
SAP, almost.
All right, 100 points for camel casing it correctly, but minus 90 points for.
That's fair.
That's fantastic. What a brilliant end! What a brilliant way to end. I just learned so much that I think I need to have a lie down now to think about that and let that sort of wash over me.
Yeah, and I am currently writing also a blog post about everything that I just said in this live stream here. I'm not sure when it will be ready, maybe the end of next week, maybe a little bit later, but it will also be same as the availability of this new service within the next couple of days.
Fantastic. Marius, thank you. So any closing words before we finish up from you, Marius?
No, sorry, I didn't prepare anything.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I think the blog post on its way is a perfect way to close. So thanks everybody for joining and great conversation. Thanks so much for trying this out as well. So Amit and Sampath confirmed that they also saw the extra property. And thank you so much, Marius, for being a guest yet again. Absolutely awesome content.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for testing it live to everyone in the audience.
That's my favorite job. Okay, folks. So have a great afternoon, rest of the afternoon, rest of the day, and I'll see you on Hands on SAP Dev regular Friday session this coming Friday. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, we've done